Alrighty, friends, welcome back. It is time to talk about Agatha All Along episodes 1 and 2. Now, I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm only gonna be giving about a 1-minute non-spoiler talk session about this because I really want to deep dive and break down the episodes 1 and 2 and talk about all those little things you may have missed and even talk about those obvious things that are right in front of your face, or even those obvious things that are right in front of your face that may or may not actually be happening. We might have another Mephisto's case on our hands. But just overall, I do want to let you know the first minute or so is going to be non-spoiler, so you can stick around for that. But if you haven't watched the episodes yet, I will let you know when the spoiler part is about to happen so you can pause the video and come back so we can talk about it after you've seen episode 1 and 2. All right, non-spoiler review. If you loved WandaVision, you will absolutely devour this show. If you loved Loki, you will love this show because it's another one of those Marvel shows that builds upon itself. The great thing about this show is that if you have a lot of comic book knowledge, you're gonna find a bunch of Easter eggs in and out of this show, and it keeps you entertained. Even those who aren't real enthusiasts in the Marvel comics will also find joy and love in the way that they stylized this show, especially in the first episode. I'm sure that you saw in the trailers different versions, and if you saw the advertisements for this, all the poster promos that they were doing, you could see that we were traversing different styles of media. I actually got a poster that was really 70s in nature, and they play in all of those different realms. Even in the very first episode, how to not talk about it without talking about it. Just know that we're playing in a lot of fun genres of television media. There's a lot of different styles. We saw in WandaVision, there were sitcoms. We saw the black and white styles, the I Love Lucy styles. We saw the Good Times. We saw the Modern Family, like all those different styles. But now with Agatha, at least in the first episode, we're seeing another style of television programming that the second that you know. And it's really cool that we get to play in all these different medias because that's kind of what television is. It's an escapism. They have a really good time with that with Agatha because, as we know, we left Agatha in a state of imprisonment. She was under Wanda's spell, and for all intents and purposes and to our knowledge, Wanda is gone. Wanda died when she fought Strange in Multiverse of Madness. We saw her spark go out. We also know that Wanda was the last person to have the Darkhold. We saw her playing with it. We saw the black fingers. We saw all of the telltale signs of the Darkhold holding on to Wanda. And even in the comic books, we know that Wanda and Agatha both had their time with the Darkhold book, with Mephisto, with all of these dark entities. In every witch's story, in media, in books, there's always a forbidden kind of magic. In The Witcher, it's fire magic. In Wanda and in Marvel, it's dark magic. And we see that even with Doctor Strange. There was a whole What If episode where he was trying to get Christy back and he did everything possible. It got to the point where he was absorbing and he became the dark Strange, like the evil version of Strange, who is just so hell-bent on getting something that he needs or wants back. That is the motivation for witches and why we do things. Most witches desire power, obtain and maintain that power. And that is the big thing for Wanda. She needed power in order to get her children. She needed to find the power. That's why she found America Chavez. She needed that particular power to find the dimension, the realm where her children were still alive and happy so that she could take her children and be happy. It's all about obtaining and maintaining power. That was a lot. Anyway, I said I was going to talk about it for a minute and now I've been going on even longer. Suffice it to say, this series is all about that. It's about obtaining and maintaining power and status. And at this point, Agatha has lost it. And now she has to rebuild by walking the witch's road. She needs to walk the witch's road because at the end of the witch's road, you will get everything your heart desires and everything you've always wanted. The problem with that is the witch's road is not a road that can be walked alone. In fact, you literally can't even get to the road unless you have a coven. And thus, the first 2 episodes, it is her building her coven in order for her to walk the witch's road. That was so much more than a minute of talking about non-spoiler stuff, but I want to get into the nitty-gritty now. I want to talk about the spoiler because I got notes, friends. I got so much notes and so much that I want to talk about in this show that we can kind of discuss and dissect and just get into. So let's do that now. Right at the start, Seekest Thou the Road is the title of this episode, and all of these episode titles are parts of the song, at least thus far, 1 and 2. These are parts of the song that you have to sing in order to open the witch's road. So already we're seeing a trend of needing spells and witchcrafts to further our journey. And that's what this whole show is about. It's about walking the road. It's about following a journey to get to whatever it is that you desire. We see that it's now a style of crime drama. And I think that that's the perfect place for Agatha to be, not only because she's this really gritty character who kind of messes with people and uses unknown means to get to the solutions and gets to the truth and the things that she wants, but also just dark. You know, I think crime dramas really, especially in the crime dramas that we normally watch, whether it even be like medical dramas, there's always an off-kiltered character at the lead, someone who's broken in a certain way and who needs others around them in their coterie in order to make them a fully formed human being. And I think in this case, Agatha is broken. Agatha has been destroyed. She lost her identity. She's definitely lost her autonomy, and, you know, she's under a spell, so obviously, but the will to be able to do what she wants has been taken from her. And now we have this, it almost felt like the opening titles were very True Blood in nature. It's very true crime, and it's fun. You know, we're now in another realm of play that we haven't been in before in Marvel or in the WandaVision shows. It's the antithesis of what the WandaVision was. So we're immediately thrust into this death of a witch, and we see that she had a library card insert on it with a bunch of dates. We go to the library, we find out that a book has been stolen, and this book is called Dialogue and Rhetoric, Known History of Learning and Debate. And immediately I go straight to the internet. I'm trying to find this book. I'm trying to figure out, I'm like pausing it because I want to know what this is. Like I'm trying to figure out if there is a book on this, but I did learn something really interesting, and it's the difference between dialogue and rhetoric. And the difference between dialogue and rhetoric is to engage in dialogue is to seek understanding others and to co-create meaning, versus to engage in rhetoric, which is to challenge and change everyday communication, relationships in a positive way. And I think that that is so interesting because in this show, we've got Agnes and we got Rio Vidal. At this point, Agatha's name is Agnes, and we know that Agnes is deep under a spell. At this point, all Agnes wants to do is continue in this spell. She's content. I'm not going to say she's happy, but she's very content. And the dialogue that she's gathering in and amongst this case is to further this case. It's to continue a dialogue in a positive way, but to continue this specific storyline. It's very straightforward. Whereas Rio Vidal comes in and completely shakes up all of her dialogues, even her little side quips that she does to Agnes, is to break her out of it. It's to challenge. It's literally to challenge and to change what is happening in the everyday communication. She's literally having asides. And so it's interesting that Agatha is having a dialogue with everyone around her, but then you've got Rio Vidal who's jumping in and who's having a rhetoric, so to speak. She's literally challenging and breaking the norms of the dialogue that's happening in order to further the journey in a positive way. So I thought that that was a really fun dialogue versus rhetoric just in the first. And obviously, you know, this book being the Dialogue and Rhetoric, Known History of Learning and Debate, when you take all of the capitals, it becomes the Darkhold. And we know that, we found that out eventually as she was crossing things off later on as the episode went on. But I just thought that that was a really interesting breakdown. Another big point in witchery is the idea of the triple goddess, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And this is just really important in the world of witches and witchcraft. Now, the triple goddess can mean different things depending on whether you're talking about Roman myth or Greek myth or Celtic myth, or if you're talking about myths at all, and maybe you're talking about the cycles of the moon. It really depends on what it is that you're looking for or what you're trying to discuss or examine or describe. But there are two big factors that the triple goddess does represent, one of them being the phases of the moon, full moon, and the waning and waxing, or the maiden, the mother, and the crone, which represents the phases of a woman's life. The triple goddess is something that we draw upon when we're casting or summoning. It's something that you draw strength from and energy from. In going through this episode, we also saw a bunch of characters that we had seen from WandaVision, one of them being Norm. But as the episode went on and Agatha was able to break from Agnes and break from Wanda's curse, we see that everything was beyond just in her head. In WandaVision, everyone in the town was part of this spell. The factitious life was actually the real life that we were all playing in. Versus everyone in the town just letting Agnes or Agatha be senile and insane, and we just kind of know that she's under the spell, so we just let her exist in this weirddom. And it's kind of sad. You know, it's sad that this entire town who knows about Wanda, who knows about magic and spells and knows that they were under the spell, is allowing Agatha to basically be deranged and senile in her home. And it's sad. You know, they talk about how they're bringing her groceries, but just to really think about how powerful this witch used to be, and now here she is just talking to nobody, and we're just letting her assume, oh, I guess we're on this crime drama now. It's how the mighty have fallen, I think, is what I'm getting at. And it's just really sad when you break that down. So then we see that those library cards, those dates on the library card from the Darkhold, initially I thought that they were deaths, but I think it's just the timestamps of when people took the Darkhold into them, because that is what the library book is. So I don't think that that's when these witches died. I just think that that's the order of which those witches took the Darkhold into themselves and took ownership of the Darkhold. Because before Wanda, it was Agatha, and that's why that name flashes above. So it's not those aren't death stamps. Those are time signatures by which witches took the Darkhold into themselves. I do also want to talk about this bunny, because this bunny is driving me crazy. That is not her familiar. Agatha Harkness has a black cat as her familiar, and it is Ebony. So I'm getting really confused, and I do want to do a little bit more research on this bunny that we keep seeing everywhere. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I'm like, it's Mephisto. It's Mephisto. Bothersome. I also want to talk about the teen. We're kind of getting into we're about to jump over to episode 2, because this is kind of the cap of episode 1. Saw that the teen and Rio are all still part of this reality. Rio comes in, beats her butt, says that the 7 are coming. And if you want to know more about the 7, here is a video that you can watch. Stella actually did a great breakdown on the 7 and who they represent, what they are. Old 7 from the comics, they did change a few of the animal characters that they become, or their archetypes, or their transforming, whatever you want to call it. The 7 from the comics are not true to the 7 that we've created now. But they are the 7. They are the Salem 7, and the Salem 7 were the ones that originally hung Agatha the first time. We've seen Agatha burned at the stake, so will we see her burned again by the time that this season is over? Who knows? Will it keep? Again, who knows? But episode 2. Let's jump over to episode 2, because that's when a lot of these notes and the Marvel comic heavy theories begin to get jumping. Let's talk about the teen. Here's the thing about the teen, and I know it's Wiccan. You know it's Wiccan. We all know that it's Wiccan. We all know this cute little gay boy witch is Wiccan. You're not going to have the Hulkling, your boyfriend the Hulkling, call you on the phone and not... Because here's my theory. Here's what I'm thinking it is. Because the whole point of the Witch's Road is that we're going to try to get something that we've lost. Something that you want is going to be obtained. Agatha... Most of the witches in the coven by the end of episode 2, they want power. They want more power to help them in whatever regular life issues they're dealing with, and the only way to get that is to get more power, which they're hoping they're going to get by the end of the road. But Wiccan? Teen? Number one, Agatha can't hear anything. She can't hear him when he says his name. She can't hear him when he talks about his backstories. And I think that that's an extra protection spell that Wanda put on. Because Wanda already saw how Agatha was treating her children. So I think that that's just an extra protection layer that she put for her children. Who knows? Maybe in all realities, she's protected her child in that way. Or maybe the Wanda where this Wiccan has come from protected her child so that any and all Agathas, just nothing. No other witches can know about you because you are mine and you are protected. So I'm thinking that might be the theory. Then also Mephisto. And here's the issue. Because we did this in WandaVision. We were like, oh, the fly on the wall is Mephisto, 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 Mephisto. And then it was not Mephisto. It was just a fly on the wall. There was no Mephisto. And so I don't want to put myself into a hole again where I'm thinking it's Wiccan and you're literally showing me, even in the promo photos, that it's Wiccan. And then maybe this is finally Mephisto, but who knows? I mean, that's what Marvel does. It makes you see all of the obvious things and then immediately turns it on its head 2 seconds later and you just throw out your notes. And you're like, what was the point? What was the point of me having all of this Marvel knowledge and this Marvel comic knowledge for you to just... Mephisto! Oh my God. So fine. On the surface level, this is Wiccan. We see that from the promo images. We see that from the fact that Hulkling is calling you. We see that from the fact that Agatha can't know his name. And so obviously this is a protection that Wanda has put on him, or, you know, a plethora of things. But that boy is Wiccan. Having Hulkling call you, talking about my boyfriend. They then jump over to Madame Caldera, who looks very different from this, you know, having the serpent crown. And I think that that's also a really fun thing that they added into this. It's fun, it's interesting. I want to preface, these are beautiful women. These are very beautiful women. But most of these women are in the crone stages of their life, and a lot of the witches that we normally see portrayed in television are in the maidenhood. They've just discovered their powers. This is new, and so I think it's really fun that Wanda has created a coven of witches who are more in their prime stages, and they've had their powers, whether they've lost them or they've diluted them. These are witches who have had their powers for centuries. And I think that that's a new fun way of playing because they still seem juvenile. Even having these powers for such a long time, they're in a meekened stage of their life. Or in their powers, whether it be a century or 400 years old, their powers aren't where they should be. Or maybe they've never been that strong. Maybe this is just a group of crone women who just don't have a lot of strong powers. And I think that that's cool. Let's bring the mothers and the crones into the coven. It doesn't always have to be maidens every single time. You can be a strong woman in every stage of your life. And I think that that's cool that Marvel did it this way. Including Mrs. Hart, who is just the everyday bystander. Maybe she'll get powers on the road, but she was just there for a good time. You know, her husband died. Honestly, Miss Darkheart is probably Rio Vidal in disguise. You know, she might be a shapeshifter and a divinator as well. I do think that that's going to be her. And then the final thing I want to talk about is why the witches took off their shoes before walking on the road. There's an obvious answer, and then there's like a deeper but still kind of obvious answer. Shoes have always worked as a protection and a barrier between you and the earth. The obvious, you're walking, you don't want to get hurt. But in witchcraft, being close to the earth and drawing power from the earth is so important. And so you want to remove that barrier in order to have a closer connection to the earth around you. And witches are very much about nature. Earth, water, air, fire, and then, you know, your center self. And so you don't want to create a barrier between you and the earth, especially walking on the witches' road, the plural, the witches' road. So it's all of us together walking down this road. And you can't have any barriers between you and the road that you're trying to walk on. And so that's why they all took their shoes off, so that the road could accept them and they could accept the road and everything that the road is going to give them. And that's just a really big practice for witches and paganism, just drawing closer to the earth. And I think we see those symbols a lot in witch movies, but it's to the umpteenth degree. We see witches naked, dancing and frolicking in the woods so that their whole body is free to nature and everything that it's going to give to them. But this is just, we are trying to be as close to the earth and everything the earth is going to give us as possible. Such a beautiful tribute to witchcraft, paganism, all of the above, and really just spirituality, just drawing from the earth. You know, it's wonderful that Marvel has added these little beautiful tidbits and honoring what it is that witchcraft represents and what it means. Yeah, this is exciting. This is really exciting for this show. It pays so much attention and novelty to Marvel Comics, but also to the spiritualities, to the rituals, to the religions that it's drawing from in the New Age world. And obviously we're learning more about these cultures as time advances, and it's wonderful that Marvel is still putting all of those elements into the show in such a lovely way. Yeah, but that's it. So here, that was my breakdown of episode 1 and episode 2. The next episode comes out on the 18th, so I will be back to do another deep dive on that episode when it comes out and the rest of them as this show progresses. So I will see you guys for the next Agatha All Along.